Oh boy, Hoosier Week is here now. The Hoosiers coming into Columbus, taking on the Buckeyes, obviously undefeated. Indiana coming in with a 3-1 record, the big win over Michigan State just last week. Their only loss of the year to Wake Forest. They also picked up wins over Florida International, then their big in-state rival, Ball State. Now, it seems, no matter what the final score is every year, it seems like the Hoosiers give the Buckeyes a game. We got the border war aspect here. I'm sure a lot of these kids on Indiana got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, feel like, hey, we're just as good as the Buckeyes. They're just right over there, man. They ain't any better than us. We could take them and their fancy coach. And, a lot of times it turns out to be a pretty good game. The last couple of years, or last year was a real scare there momentarily. The Buckeyes, of course, pulled it out. I don't know what the records or what the streak is right now. If Ohio State's got some winning streak, I feel like the Hoosiers just got them not that long ago. It's not like one of these deals where it's like 28-0 or something the last whatever. I don't believe so anyhow. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's been a while since the Hoosiers got a victory. But they're not the joke that they once were. It just feels like, years ago, Indiana was just an afterthought. It was just a basketball school. While they were winning Big Ten titles in basketball, their football team was dropping an 0-7 or 0-8 or whatever it was in the conference back then. So now for years now, the offense has been building. It seems like they've always got a running back. They got a receiver. They got a quarterback. They got some stats. They've had to go through some coaching changes, some coordinator changes, but they continue just to rack up the stats. Where it seemed like, boy, if they could ever just figure out a defense instead of coming up on the short end of some of these 47-39 type games, maybe they could actually pull out some W's here. I think last year in the bowl game was an example of that. They had a high-scoring shootout, 44-40 or something like that, and they took the loss to Duke. Duke and Indiana, I feel like, should play in football every year. I feel like Indiana should play Duke and Kentucky every year, and probably the Bearcats, too. That'd be a perfect off-season non-conference schedule for the Hoosiers. I mean, don't you agree? Duke, Kentucky, the Bearcats, and then get into the Big Ten. I think it's not a bad idea. Part of the problem, too, is the stadium, not as big as some of the big powerhouses in the Big Ten. They just don't have the home field advantage, even especially when the Buckeyes go there. There's a lot of Ohio State fans when the game's at Indiana. I'm sure it's the same way possibly when they play Illinois, Northwestern, all these teams. The fans that are there, they're loud and they're rowdy. I mean, they hate the Buckeyes basically from fucking Gary to Richmond. So there's some people showing up there, Indianapolis, everywhere in between. They'll get in there and cheer on the Hoosiers against the Buckeyes. But none of that matters right now because we're at Columbus. Like I said, Indiana once again throwing the ball. Lagow, whatever the quarterback's name is. You got a guy who hits Westbrook. He's got 4 of their touchdowns. Almost 400 yards receiving already on the year for Westbrook. He's got over 1,200 yards passing on the season, 9 touchdowns, compared to JT. Doesn't quite have the yards, but JT's got him in touchdowns. 6 interceptions, though, thrown already, so you got to watch out for that. If you're the Buckeyes secondary, you got to be looking around. Stat alert, can I get a pick 6? So that would be nice if it is one of these games where the Buckeyes offense is struggling a little bit. Because Indiana, that was the point I was going to get at earlier. As much as Indiana has had the offense to bring. Coleman now you see doing well in the NFL. As much as they've had the offense over the last few years, their defense let them down. But, I watched a little bit of the Florida International game. It's here on YouTube. Saw a little bit of the Michigan State game last week. And they got some linebackers that can move. Apparently they can cover some guys. They're defensively, I think they're only, they're not getting torched passing the ball this year. Offensively, they're lighting it up. They're almost at 500 yards a game. Not bad, Buckeyes well over 500 yards, obviously. One problem could be is the Ohio State averaging 332 rushing yards a game. If you're a Hoosier fan, you're watching this. 332 rushing yards a game for the Buckeyes. That's right. You got Weber, Samuel, JT Barrett, and then you saw last week, poor Rutgers, man. We had guys in there, freshmen, that are like 5th on the depth chart in there rushing for 6 yards a carry. Johnny Dixon getting a touchdown. So potentially, man, we'll see. Last year's team, it just never felt like they were clicking. They just couldn't get it going. And then right now, man, they're just rolling. But Indiana, this isn't, obviously, no disrespect to Indiana, but this isn't the toughest fucking matchup in the Big Ten, all right? But Indiana, they're just like I don't know, they're a pesky little team. They know the Buckeyes by now. Everybody in the Big Ten, it's just like from day one, they're like, all right, how do we beat Ohio State? If we beat Ohio State, everything else will fall in line. You don't really have to worry about Penn State and Northwestern if you're good enough to beat the Buckeyes, you know? So from day one, everybody's goal is they're just eyeballing them. Like, what are they doing? I mean, you saw Rutgers last week. Half of their coaching staff come from Ohio State, so it doesn't really work without the players, Rutgers. So we'll see, man. You know, potentially, I'll eventually get around to a pick and a prediction here. I mean, we're picking the Buckeyes. You see where this is headed. I mean, we're headed downhill or uphill, however you want to look at that. But we're going towards a Buckeyes pick. I'm still trying to decide, you know. Part of me is just like, I saw last week. I saw what they did to Oklahoma. I see the 6 interceptions thrown by Lagow. So, how about it? Man, I want to just pick a romp, you know, a 47-10, but I feel like the Hoosiers got it. You know, the Hoosiers got more than 10 points in them. I mean, the problem with Indiana, if they could just slow the ball down, you know, that's the type of game you don't want to get into a shootout. You know, they're not going to beat Ohio State 56-49. It's not going to happen. But what they could do, you know, maybe they get a touchdown early, they get a little bit of a lead. You know, they're up 10-3 or something. You know, 17-7. Somehow they get a lead. Then, you know, start pounding the ball out. Try to get a 6 or 7 minute drive. I don't think they're capable of that. Indiana, if the Hoosiers put together a 6 or 7 minute drive, something's going on. It's because they're completing 20-yard passes and then getting a holding penalty, and then completing a 15-yard pass and a 12-yard pass, and then getting a false start penalty. So, that's the problem. You got to get into a shootout if you're going to beat them, and the Buckeyes got some players on defense. Like I mentioned, Indiana had some linebackers that could move. The Buckeyes got defensive tackles that can move, so could be a long day. All right, fuck it, man. Sorry, Hoosiers. It's not going to be pretty. I know you're feeling good after the Michigan State win, but we'll see what's up with Michigan State. But I think it might just be like, I got 48-20 in my head. How about that? 48-20. I think you're good for a couple TDs, maybe even a third touchdown. Something happens on that extra point. I don't know, man. That's it. I'm FZAPA 20. That's the pick. The pick is in. It's official. Thanks for watching, guys. I think I went a little longer this week. Some people were calling for, oh, maybe that was Browns. Damn, maybe they wanted a longer Browns video. Well, you got a longer Buckeyes video. That was the preview. It's the official word. I wouldn't bet any money on it. These videos are for entertainment. Oh, 48-20. They do not cover. 29-point spread. I don't know about a 29-point spread. I think Vegas is disrespecting the Hoosier. Disrespect the Hoosier. Respect Herb. Guy doesn't like kickers.